What's going on today? We have the RTX 5070. This is the ROS master version of the card. We'll be pairing it with the 9800X3D and 32 gigs of RAM. All right, so here we are. We've got the 5070. We're currently on the low preset. We are at 137 FPS, and we're just going to keep an eye on things. That VRAM is going to be our main topic of discussion today with this title. Let's just keep going and jump over and see what we can expect once we go up a little bit. So we go to medium. Notice we still aren't over that VRAM threshold, so we're still at 232. All right, so we're just running around here, kind of, looking around. Still on DLAA, no upscaling, no frame generation, nothing like that. So we are looking like we are using about 9.1 gigs of allocation and 7.9 of used. I said that kind of weird, but you know what I mean. So allocation is about 9 and used is about 8. All right, so when I go up to the very next level, let's see what we can expect here. All right, so if I go up to high, all right, so that gives us 9.6 of allocation and 8.4 of used with 111 FPS. Again, this is not upscaling. We're at 1440p, and everything looks pretty good, and nothing to really get too excited about here, right? So we're looking like we're going to be doing okay as far as the FPS goes. All right, so we are going to hit some VRAM issues though. So I'm just going to keep going and show you guys kind of like what to expect. So if I go up to Ultra, all right, so we're still at 232, so no spilled VRAM. Everything still looks good. We're allocating 9.8 and we are using 8.5. So everything looks quite nice. Everything's leveled out, stable. Got a nice flat frame time graph, and DLAA is doing a really good job for us here. Still not upscaling, no frame gen, so we're looking all right. 111 FPS. All right, so when I go up to the very next level, which would be Overkill, we are still at 233 megabytes of shared VRAM. Now, this is at 1440. If I do go up to 4K, we will start to run into some issues. I do want to, kind of stress that this game teeters right there at the edge of that 12 gigabytes, kind of depending on where you're at. This is an area that tends to be a little bit cleaner to run. I have hit some, 11.1s and 11.2s on the allocation in other sections of the game, but for the most part, this is kind of what you can expect. Now, if I jump up to 4K, that's what I wanted to do right now. Wanted to jump over to the next level of display size, I guess. So we're going to go up to 4K. All right, we're going to jump over to it. All right, so let's come down here to graphics and go down off of that Overkill and go down to a low preset. So this would be 4K. Now you're already spilling over on your VRAM a little bit. We're definitely not at 232. We're at 713. That to me is not too bad of a thing. I mean, we have gone up in our resolution, so it is using a little bit more of that shared VRAM. So maybe it's not, I probably shouldn't call it spilled VRAM. We are under our allocated VRAM of 12. We're only at 8.8. So let's just keep on going and check out the very next level here and kind of see where this card needs a little bit of DLSS help. So right here we are at 712 still. We're still looking pretty good. 52 FPS though. So this is kind of where at 4K I would probably say some DLSS would help you out. So I'm going to jump over and enable some DLSS after I kind of run through some of these settings here. So on high, notice it's screaming at us that we're going to be out of VRAM, but we're at 712 gigs or 712 megabytes right now of shared VRAM, and it's still not saying we're over. I mean, we're at 10.3 of allocation and used is at 9.1. Now there are a little bit more snags. We've got a little bit rougher frame time graph for sure. For the most part though, this game does run exceptionally smoothly. It's hard for me to say, but as far as a day one game goes, it does run pretty well. I will give it that. It's definitely performing okay. I haven't noticed anything like necessarily really wrong with it. But yeah, 52 FPS here, so we can definitely do better than that. I just want to show kind of all the different settings that you can expect. So if we go to Ultra, it's going to drop us down to 42, 44. Still not spilling over. Our shared VRAM is still staying right there at that 713, 9.3 on our used, and 10.5 on our allocation. So yeah, we're looking okay here. The only thing we need to get, kind of to improve is that FPS. We're definitely going to need a lot more frames for a game like this, especially this kind of quick shooter action kind of thing. You definitely want to be well over 60 would be my preference, but let's see what we can do. All right, so let's jump over and go to graphics and go to the overkill setting. Now, as you can see, we have spilled over. This is where the card just kind of gives up. We're at 1.7 gigs of spill or shared VRAM, and about 700 of that is what it was going to use anyway, so it's kind of kicking a gig over, which makes sense because, this card would not use 11.8 or would not allocate 11.8 on a 12 gig card. It's hitting that threshold and saying like, nope, I'm going to back out, throw a gig into the system RAM and try to keep running that way. So what I'm going to do is just kick it down to maybe like, let's see, high looked pretty good. High looked pretty promising. So let's jump down to high. But as you can see, this is what's so confusing. It's higher than what it was. So it's at 968. It's like it gets like kind of stuck or something. So that's just kind of like a weird thing that this game is doing right now. But we're not getting the 713 that we were getting earlier. And I don't know why. If someone knows why, please, let me know in the comments below. But once you go over that threshold, it's like it won't go back down to what it was, even despite your settings being the exact same. So what you got to do, and this is the only thing that's worked for me a few times, is go down to low, kick that low on, and see if it'll settle out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But that shared VRAM is just kind of all over the place. Okay, so there we go. So now that we're under what it was, now we can go back up to the high setting, and hopefully it will stay at that 713 or so. There you go. So I don't know what that's about, but it's just a weird thing it does that I've noticed. So it's like once you hit that threshold, you got to go way back to low, let it gather itself, and then kick it back up. But anyway, let's jump over and kick on some upscaling. So we're going to check out some, we're just going to go to, let's see, quality. So quality at high, and that's going to give you a little bit of a break on your VRAM, which is nice. It's going to give you 88 FPS. So, by upscaling, we give it a nice little break as far as like how much VRAM it's requiring, because we're lowering that resolution in the background. And of course, on 4K, you can go way down to like performance, and it still looks insanely good. So yeah, if you want to play at 4K, you can definitely do that. You just gotta pay attention to your VRAM and make sure you're using your DLSS properly. I wish I could get my PCL monitor to work. It will not work. I don't know what's going on, but it just will not work with this title. I think it's got something to do with the display bug that everyone's kind of realizing. If you're on full screen, sometimes it cuts your display signal from your PC to your monitor, and you have to select windowed mode for it to come back. That's how I'm playing now. So if you're running into that issue, that's how you fix it. You just have to run it in windowed mode. You got to go do it through your NVIDIA driver, because you can't get into the game to then switch it. So, kind of a weird thing. But anyway, so we're just going to keep going here. So, high with quality looks really good. We can go up to potentially check out Ultra. So this is Ultra quality DLSS. Still, our VRAM, our shared VRAM, of course it goes up a little bit because, you're increasing your overall quality, but we're still not spilling over anything. Our allocated VRAM's right there at 9.9 or 10, 90 FPS. So this looks pretty good. This is a really good setting if you don't want to really tax your system all the way to the edge of overkill. But yeah, 87 FPS, potentially with some frame generation, would be a good way to play it. All right, so let's just keep going and check out Overkill. Let's see. There we go. Overkill. All right. So VRAM went up. Of course, We're using over a gig. That's definitely not what I want to see, or close to it at least. But you know, we can definitely mitigate this with a little bit more DLSS, hopefully, as long as we don't have that weird, you know, VRAM issue. But 713 is kind of where we were when we kicked over to 4K without any sort of DLSS, but we're still over that. We're still at 841, and we're right there at that 10 gig limit. It doesn't really like to go past about 11.2, 11.4 on this title. You know, and then it'll start to kick some resources over to that system RAM. But we're just going to keep going and see what we can expect with a little bit more DLSS, because on Overkill, if you can drop it down to balanced or performance, it still looks really good. So balanced will give you, let's give the VRAM some time. That shared VRAM is not reporting correctly. It kind of takes it a second. There it goes. Okay, so 9.69. So it's under gig. That makes me feel a little bit better. You know, not as good as I'd like to feel, but you know, 73 FPS with a nice flat frame time graph. You know, I can't really complain about that too much. And you've got some additional VRAM that you're not using to potentially frame generate. So on balanced with you know, everything set to Overkill, you can still expect over 60 FPS pretty reliably, I think. You know, I mean, might not be absolutely all the time, but for the most part, without jumping into any kind of frame generation, this is what you can expect. I mean, the game is very gorgeous, though. I mean, these reflections, everything just looks so good on this preset. All right, so let's jump over and see what we can do with some performance. If I was on 4K, wanting to play Overkill mode or whatever it's called, yeah, Overkill, I would definitely use performance. It's just going to run better. I mean, performance DLSS at 4K upscales beautifully. Again, let's just give a little bit. So we're seeing up in the lower 70s, mid 70s now. That VRAM is still being shared over a gig, and that's something that this game just does. Despite, I mean, I think it's just because it's like that allocated VRAM is right there at 10, so it's throwing a gig into system RAM. But remember, the system RAM was at like 700-ish anyway. That's just, it's never going to be zero. So it's very barely spilling over. I mean, it's just a little bit. And you've still got enough to do some frame generation. So if you wanted to come down here and kick that on, let's check that out. All right, so if we wanted to kick on a little bit of frame gen, let's go to 2x, you know, nothing too crazy. Let's see what that does for us. All right, so 112 FPS, 10.8 gigs of allocated VRAM, because you are doing some frame gen. It's going to use a little bit more VRAM. 9.6 of used. You know, the spilled VRAM, about 300-ish of that is actually spill, and not necessarily, well, it just went up a little bit as I said that. Of course, it always does. So, you know, remember about 700 of that was just what it shared anyway, despite not, you know, not spilling over. All right, so 114 FPS. Let's check out potentially a little bit more of the other settings. So right here at performance DLSS, let's go up to 4K or 4X just to see what that'll do. All right, so yeah, use a little bit more or allocate a little bit more VRAM. So we're at 10.7. Definitely kicking over some VRAM right now. I mean, big time. It's you know, well over a gig of you know, shared VRAM. So doing some quick math in my head, about half a gig of that is spill from what it would normally be, but you're seeing 200 FPS with a flat frame time graph. So do you care? I don't really. I mean, that's fine. If I wasn't staring at this graph, I wouldn't know. You know, I mean, that's kind of something to think about too. But you can definitely run 4K with, you know, pretty maxed out settings. I probably wouldn't run it this hard. I would probably drop down to that Ultra and, you know, kick on that performance and 4X, and let's just see what that does. That gets our VRAM under control. We're back down to that 700-ish that we kind of started off as a baseline. We're seeing 226, 227 FPS with a 4X frame gen. Yeah, this is probably how I would play it, because you're seeing a pretty nice, smooth improvement as far as your spilled VRAM or your, you know, shared VRAM goes. It's right where it needs to be. It's kind of where it was anyway. So we're not spilling over. Under 11 of allocation. We're using 9.5 on this setting. So this is probably how I would play it right here. You know, you could go to Overkill. You're going to get a little tiny bit of spill, but it doesn't really make the game like itchy, or, you know, it doesn't really complain too much, so that's a good sign. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of an insight into what you can expect on the 5070. You know, I think it's a pretty smooth experience on this title with this card, you know, especially at 1440, but you can absolutely kick it up to 4K if you're on a 4K panel like this. And with that, I'm just going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.